The building is an example of tessellation in engineering because the building is made by civil engineers and the windows are different shapes which make up the building. It is a tessellation. The roof is an example of tessellation in engineering because the building is made by civil engineers and the tiles are all triangles which make up the roof. It is a tessellation. The table pattern is an example of tessellation in McBride High School because they make the pattern with the same shape put together to make the table. It is a tessellation. The roof is an example of tessellation in McBride High School because the pattern is made by the same shape put together to make the roof. It is a tessellation. The spaceship Earth is an example of tessellation in engineering because the spaceship Earth was made by civil engineers and the glass pattern or triangle made into a ball. It is a tessellation. Mickey's Fun Wheel is an example of rotation in engineering because the fun wheel was made by structural engineers and the fun wheel rotates on an axle. It is a rotation. Grizzly River Run's wheel is an example of rotation in engineering because the wheel was made by structural engineers and the wheel rotates on an axle. It is a rotation.
A windmill is an example of rotation in engineering because the windmills are designed by wind energy engineers and the windmill rotates on an axle. It is a rotation.
An airplane propeller is an example of rotation in engineering because the plane, including the propeller, are made by aerospace engineers, and the propeller rotates on an axle. It is a rotation. The tires are an example of translation and rotation in engineering because the car and tires are designed and made by automotive engineers, and the tire are the same but in different locations, and they rotate on the axle. They are translated and rotated.
The windows are an example of translation in engineering because the house was made by a civil engineer, and the windows are the same but in different locations. They were translated. The pillars are an example of translation in engineering because the pillars were put in by a civil engineer, and the pillars are the same but in different locations. They were translated. The planes are an example of translation in engineering because the planes are made by an aerospace engineer, and the planes are the same but in different locations. They are translated. The bricks are an example of translation in engineering because the bricks are arranged by civil engineers, and the bricks are the same but in different locations. They are translated. The Taj Mahal is an example of reflection in engineering because the Taj Mahal was made by civil engineers, and one side of Taj Mahal is the exact same as the other side. It is a reflection. The bridge is an example of reflection in engineering because the bridge was made by civil engineers, and one side of the bridge is the same as the other side. It is a reflection. The airplane is an example of reflection in engineering because the airplane design was made by aerospace engineers, and one side of the design is the same as the other side. It is a reflection. The Petronas Towers are an example of reflection in engineering because the Petronas Towers were made by civil engineers, and one side of the Petronas Towers is the same as the other side. It is a reflection. The Space Shuttle is an example of reflection without the logos in engineering because the Space Shuttle was made by aerospace engineers, and one side of the Space Shuttle is the same as the other side. It is a reflection.